Welcome to episode 102 of the Hoop Threads podcast. Here with a DMV legend, Bruce Kelley. Coach Kelley, how's it going, man?
Legend's too strong, but thank you for the nice introduction.
There we go. So, eight-time IAC champion. Did go through your records. 70% win percentage, 80% in your league. Like I said, won your league 8 times. A winner on and off the court. Really should not have taken 102 episodes to get here, but glad that I'm able to get you on, man. So let's start at the beginning. You grew up in Miami in Little Haiti, went to Miami Curley High School. Talk about what growing up in that environment meant for you, your development as a person as well as a player.
It was so cool, Aaron, because this is before Miami Vice, right? So this is growing up there, like a mid 70s, graduate high school 79. And so you call it Little Haiti. That's where my high school was. It was Archbishop Curley High School. It's an inner city Catholic school. And after school, people would play. So it was just a multicultural affair. Like most any Central American country was represented. Me, you got to Haiti, you got to African Americans. It was just a widespread of people and languages, and the common thread was ball, Aaron, right? Some people didn't speak the English, but you spoke ball. It was just a fascinating cultural experience. It was awesome. I would never ever trade it.
So how did you end up at Catholic U from there?
Average player, loved the game, right? So state of Florida did not have any Division III schools. Most of the people who were really serious about basketball would go junior college or to Division IIs. And I had a sister who lived in the area. And my first year, I went to school in Austin, Texas, St. Edward's University, because it was the same order as my high school. And that was just too far from home. So my sister lived in D.C., and Catholic U was just transitioning from Division I to Division III, and that was really my level. And that's really the move. And got a chance to play for two awesome men, Jack Cavance, who was a longtime athletic director, George Mason and George Washington. Then Jack Bruin, who was just a legend of a man in this. They call him Six Pack Jack, who had been with Morgan Wooten, and just these guys were really good to me for someone who was of average ability, but just loved the game.
What type of player were you? Were you a banger, or you were kind of getting some shots up on the perimeter
there? I was a good teammate, Aaron, a good teammate. I just not shot hungry, but just loved to play, loved to compete, probably cover the other people's best player. Okay. When I was in American U, Chris Knocky and Gordon used to call me Craig Elo. I don't know if you remember Craig Elo.
Yes, sir.
He's the guy who got Jordan beat on that shot where he's pumping his fist. So more of a defensive-minded, good player. I mean, a good teammate, wing player. That's who I was.
That checks out for sure. Just after watching you coach the last 6 years. So, all right. So, started off at the Holy Name School, and then, coached under, another legend in Dick Myers at Gonzaga. So you learned under one of the most legendary coaches in the area, alongside some assistants that also went on to some great coaching careers. Talk about kind of that time period in your life, some important things that you took away from, learning under Coach Myers, as well as some of the other assistants around you.
So I was before the like Steve Turner and Paul Evans. I was before those guys.
Okay.
Sorry, it was just me and Coach Myers. Coach Myers, for people who don't know, was head coach at Gonzaga for many years and worked at the Army prep school while Bob Knight was the head coach at Army. And Dick Myers you could run a basketball practice, and he was a real teacher of the game. But the greatest influence of all was, at that point in time, you would go scout, and the game now is so much more, you go scout and it's player oriented, like who are the best players. Then that you would run offense more because there's no shot clock until like 88. So at the time, Joe Gallagher's at St. John's, Morgan Wooten is at DeMatha, Paul DiStefano was all sorts of places. But you would go scout. I was single, and I would just watch these, you call them legends, but it's expert teachers of the game. and see how they're played, how their teams performed, and what they would do, and calling timeouts, their management of the game. It was a master class in trying to run a high school program, not only from Dick Myers, like with him, and then going to scout the people that were going to scout and try to play. And it was just me. It was just me and Dick. So it wasn't like it was spread out through everyone. It was just a wonderful, wonderful education for a person who wanted to be a high school coach.
So you went from there to be an assistant coach in American for 7 years in the CAA. What did you learn about evaluating and recruiting, the right kind of guy when you were at American U?
The most important lesson is that there's a lot of good coaches, but sometimes there are better jobs. Therefore, that determines the difference between something being successful or not. At American, he's not a hell of a coach. He knows the game, but we had academic restrictions that we were going up against. Lefty Dazelle at James Madison, Sonny Smith at VCU, Oliver Purnell, and then Capel at Old Dominion. I mean, these are large state schools that we were competing against. We were the massive underdog. So we didn't win. So I don't have any great lessons for you there. But I will say that the jobs dictate results more so than coaches do at times, because there are some places that are just predetermined, predestined to win ahead of time.
Got you. So from there, you went on to Prospect Hall, following Steve Vetter, another really high level coach from this area. And I was listening to shout out to Capital Hoops. Mark Stearns had a great interview with you. And you said that you only had 4 varsity only players and that you used some JV players that first year. Talk about that experience, kind of building that program.
It was incredible, because you basically was starting a new school. Because when Coach Vetter left, it was a very acrimonious departure. And so when Coach left, I mean, he had done all the fundraising and done all of the work to get the weights, the basketballs, the uniforms, the baskets, everything. So when I got there was 4 players who were on JV, but we might have had maybe 10 points returning. If I'm wrong, it's 20. And we were playing a high school schedule that following year. So everything was started out from scratch. It was kind of weird that here we are, St. John's Prospect Hall, this starting over program, but on the wall, you have like a national championship banner on the wall and some of the accolades that they had won. So it was, you're doing what you can. Fortunately, we didn't have many rules, so we had JV players. I can remember, I think this was in that article with Mark, or that interview with Mark, that there was a young man named Adama Diggs who we went and played St. Mary's, and Adama played the JV game and had 27 points in the JV game. We have the 4 guys warming up for varsity, and then about 10 minutes on the game clock, the rest of the JV kids come out, and we have a real warm up for the last 10 minutes, and then Adama, I think, scored 31 in the varsity game at St. Mary's. So my guy walks out of there scoring 57 points in 2 games. And so you had to make dues, Aaron. I mean, so much of coaching is that you can wish for something, but you got to coach and deal with what you've got. And there's just no excuses, because you've got a game to play. And so we did a lot of figuring out on the fly. Maybe that's the best way for me to phrase it.
I got you. Yeah, you have to be in that situation. Talk about, what led to you being considered for the Bullis job and you kind of landing that and starting there.
We'd come down to the tournament for many years. So Bullis, we would participate in the tournament. My predecessor, very successful coach, Mike Hibbs, resigned. This is a plum job. We talked sometimes job creates winning for you. Mike won, we're winning, and whoever follows me most likely will win, because this place it's set up to win within our conference. So the athletic director at the time, a guy named Mike Del Grand, was at SEMI coach, was aware of how our teams played, and he was very encouraging through the process. I don't think I get this job without Mike Del Grand really going to bat for me and supporting my candidacy, because there were some other candidates that were very, very solid good men, good coaches, but I think Mike had just felt comfortable with me being here. And quite honestly, the job of Prospect Hall, following somebody of a large stature and still being able to maintain a program, I think that helped me, because Mike Hibbs had such a great success before I ever got here. And so just it was a challenge to kind of meet that standard.
Mm-hmm. Got you. You did have a successful first year, won the IAC title, your first year at Bullis over Episcopal. Talk about that season and how important that was in setting the groundwork for your program as it stands today.
Oh man, I told this story the other day, because Dominic Davis, who was a guard on that team, his parents still are friends, and they came to our championship game this past year. And I often remark, so we lose our very first IAC game. We lose in just dramatic fashion at Landon, right? Just a gut punch of a game. And the following Tuesday, we play St. Stephen's, St. Agnes at Bullis. And Tuesdays really don't get much of an IAC crowd. So they're just kicking our butt. And it's mid-second quarter. I think we're down double digits, and a flashing thought within my head. I mean, they're going to run my sad ass out of here if we don't turn this around. And a guard named Dominic Davis, who was a senior, who we inherited, just went off and had an awesome second half, and we rallied and won that game. And that was a turning point for us as a team and our relationship together. And we rallied and had a really good season. I think we went 8-2 in the league and beat Episcopal at Episcopal for the championship of the league. And we're going to have our 20th reunion next year. We're going to have some cocktails and relive some stories. So it was, yes. Without those guys, I don't know. Who knows? I don't know quite where this goes. But for a moment there, it was dicey.
You also did win a championship with your son on the roster. Talk about that experience, whether if you could do it again, if you would still do that, and kind of what that feeling was like, kind of hugging him after you guys won.
So the backdrop, yeah, Brian Kelley played in 2014. He was the sixth man on that team, which is interesting. If you're going to coach your son or daughter, coach your child, that the child either has to be the best on the team or the worst on the team. So any place in the middle, you just either you're not giving him the benefit of the doubt, or you're giving the benefit of the doubt over other people. It was probably harder on him than on me, because I was the coach. But I will say, Aaron, that 2014, we win the championship. Brian was in the game. We're making the subs out because the coaching of the team called off the dogs early, so maybe 30 seconds left, and I got a chance to hug each of those guys as they come off, and they were all seniors, so it's the end of their career, because there was no Maryland private school tournament that year. And one of the guys is BK, my son, and just it's a moment parents would cherish. Here we are. We're in front of everyone just expressing our love, and we're winning a championship. And that was the end of the road. And it was emotional, man, because not only was the end of the road of that season, but he was my riding partner, right? For all those practice and games for years, like, no more. My man's no more. And so, Brian, it got me crying over here, reliving that moment. But some highs and lows, but the bond forever was well worth it, Aaron. Well worth it.
Got you. So we'll talk next kind of in generalities, and then kind of some, philosophical kind of standpoints, with you as a coach. Bullis is really competitive in recruiting in this area, even with, some of the WCAC schools, despite, you're a private school. So, the tuition obviously sometimes can get in the way, and academic standards are high as well. Sell your school and, everything it has to offer.
Well, Bullis isn't for everyone, right? It's not for everyone. So but it is a transformational school, because there has been just a long history back to the days like before we were college prep school, we were an academy that helped kids go to the Naval Academy or the West Point. So we would take students and make them better, right? And so we haven't always been this lofty elite school, and we've transitioned or transformed that we still have high academic integrity and academic accomplishments, but we're still for that hardworking child, that overachiever in the classroom. And so there's been a lot of years of people who have had relatives and people come to Bullis who had some success. So it's got a name that your child's dreams can come true scholastically and athletically at Bullis. I think too why some people like Bullis is because we have some really good, like Darren McClinton and Jason Conley. We have some people who train our players in the off season. So there's a pretty extensive and robust player development program, because in our league, I am not allowed to work with our players during the school year out of the season more than 3. We have more than 3 players on the team. So by having Darren and Jason Coop being able to work with our players, our guys don't have to go elsewhere after school. They can come to school, get in the weight room, train, and then get some shots up and train. By the time they go home, they're doing their schoolwork and sleeping and then coming again tomorrow. They don't have to go to a skills trainer at the end of a long day. So I think the academic success and the teachers working with students, so your child's going to get a quality education, and your child can accomplish their dreams academically and athletically. And the skills development people that we have here are very well respected, and it makes my job as the head coach much easier.
Got you. So you've had some high-level transfers coming in recently. Big dog Erik coming over from Germany, as well as Caden Diggs coming in this year. I believe was IAC, was it Player of the Year? I know he's at least first team.
He was first team. He and Adrien were very, very close, and Adrien Stevens ended up winning it.
Got you. So talk about, when you have conversations with parents and players about potentially coming to Bullis, what are some non-negotiables that you make sure to underline in those meetings?
Non-negotiable is a funny word, right? But I think it's important that families understand that their child can accomplish their dreams. No one's trying to squash your dreams. At the same time, you have to respect other families and their dreams and their wishes. So to really try to do what you are trying to do within a team and family concept, because if it becomes about you, it just doesn't work, because there are just too many other good teams going to do programs, too many good coaches, that if we're not locked in, like all in together, then it's going to splinter and it's going to be a really bad experience for all of us. So I think the part that we try to really talk about and stress that we love your child, we love your son, we want him with us, but he's got to be with us, right? Us, not just doing your own thing. Maybe that's probably the safest way for me to say it there.
I got you. All right. So, you were a big man as a college player. Does that allow you to see some things for the bigs that you can coach that others wouldn't? And are the nuances of the game as a guard that you've had to learn kind of over the years to kind of like lead your guards?
Game's so different, Aaron. Game's so different now than ever before. And I think rely on like what the child does well, as opposed to trying to change their game too much. So I think the for me, learning what that player does really well and watching them. I'll watch the workouts that they're doing with Darren and the things that Darren and Coop work with them, and their players' comfort level. So I would think I think that's it, Aaron. The big thing is trying to put them in positions of success while developing the other portion of, so they're competent at those other things. But sometimes we as coaches try to overcoach too much, and just let that child's natural not instincts, but natural gifts take over more than try to make them be something that I want them to be.
Gotcha. So because you are a seasoned, a veteran coach, despite the age gap that you have with some of your players, one of the most palpable skills that you have as a coach, at least from me as an outsider, is your ability to relate with and motivate your guys. What have you learned about what it takes to build those relationships on and off the court?
It's very nice. The whole comment was very nice. I think it's a love of ball, Aaron. I think it's a love of ball. And you mentioned growing up in Miami, Curley High School, with the multi-ethnic melting pot that it was, that we overcame all sorts of language barriers, cultural barriers on that court. And much like now, it's not a language barrier as much as a age barrier, but it's love of ball. And that's, if you don't really love basketball, it'll be hard for you at Bullis, because the kids here do, and the coaches do, and I do. And so I think that's it. We have that common bond that, we're not going to listen to the same music. We're not going to eat the same food. We're not going to do anything else. When we get on that beautiful golden rectangle, we're speaking the same language there.
Okay. So development is also kind of very key to what you do at Bullis. What are some of the most impactful lessons that you've learned about developing guys? What traits in young prospects kind of stand out to you and make you want them on your team?
I think it's very similar to what you just said. This is the DMV, right? There are good players everywhere, right? So if you are a young man and you tell us that you have this goal, that you want to be great, you want to go to X, Y, and Z, then you can't just say that, right? You have to go do it, because Darren and Coop will have people from other schools come in, guys, college pros, female pros. I mean, there are all sorts of people coming through our gym. And so our guys see how hard they work. So you can't fake it. You can't say you want something and like be down up in the student center when everybody else is working, right? So it saves me, like, I don't have to get on people. It's like your actions must meet your dreams or your goals. Maybe that's it. Your actions have to meet your goals. Otherwise, you're just dreaming. And so maybe that's it, Aaron. Like constantly reminding people what they say their goals are, and differentiating between a goal and a dream. Because if you're just wishing it to happen, the kid down the road he's making it happen, and you're going to play him soon. At some point in time, you're going to play somebody who's out to kick your butt unless you're ready for it. So that's it. Constantly reminding guys that if you want something, this is the platform. It's there. It's ready for you.
Okay. Let's talk about, kind of the same vein, depth and development. Your teams always play pretty hard, and you have good depth to be able to keep up with, the intensity on both sides of the floor that you and your coaching staff demand. Talk about some of the strategizing you do with your staff to kind of stagger recruits in each class to be able to mature and develop, younger guys so that they can be ready to step up by the time that juniors and seniors, are kind of moving up and moving on to college level.
Oh man, I don't know if I have an answer for that one, Aaron, because I should be sleeping peacefully right now. The season just ended a week ago, but we lose 3 really good players. We're losing Jewel Walker, Tyler Boston, and Caden Diggs. And I don't know how we're going to replace those guys. I mean, you're talking about depth and stepping in, and some people are going to have to step up. And as we're talking here, March 18th, man, we got to get there. We got some work to do. So maybe I'll answer this question a year from now, because right now I'm nervous about it. Like, we've got people want to kick our butts, and we have a big schedule coming up, and we have 3 really good players that we have to somehow find. We're not going to replace them, but find ways of filling those gaps. So I don't have an answer for you, but we're searching for that answer still.
Got you. Another kind of example of the development, Adrien Stevens is probably the best and most recent example of a player that you guys really believed in and developed well. I remember a conversation that we had his before his freshman year, the summer before that, when he stepped into a summer league game, and Nicky Vick and I think one of the other seniors were either on a visit or just kind of hurt, and Adrien stepped in and had a great game. I think he had 14 points, hit 2 or 3 threes. Talk about what you saw in him, and what you kind of think his future holds as a prospect.
Uh, so this is kind of an incriminating story. So Aaron, in 2020, COVID happened, right? And so summer of 2020, we were working out outside at a local middle school, and so that's we were getting together, and we were just nothing sanctioned, just kind of keeping our frame of mind. It was nothing organized. You didn't have to go. It was just, but we were all clamoring for community, right? So we didn't realize how good Adrien was for months and months and months. And he just has a relentless work ethic that few kids have outworked me at Bullis. A few kids have. Adrien clearly has. He'll come back to the gym at odd hours. The security guards know who he is. He is just relentless in his approach to improve. He deserves all the credit. I think you're trying to give me some sort of credit for his development. MAC will take some of the credit for his development, but the lion's share of that development goes to Adrien, because he works with a strength coach, Wes, through Healthy Ballers. He works with DMAC. He works with Nick Sparacino. He works with Glenn. He works with a lot of people. It's just, he's just a relentless worker on his game. So that's it. But we'll take the credit, Aaron. I'll take it. I'm good with that. But he deserves it.
Yeah. Another one of your former players that is really having a blow up season, Erik Reynolds, with St. Joseph's. Why was he such an underrated prospect? And talk about how picking the right school and the right level has been key to his success and development so far at the college level.
Erik Reynolds is a special child, man. Special child. And just couldn't be prouder of him. And not just who he's the same guy. He's the same guy when he left Bullis, just humble and just goes about his business. So your question was why, like for talking about coming to Bullis or going to St. Joe's?
Go to St. Joe's.
Okay. Because he was not a highly recruited player coming to Bullis. And part of that is just him never really asserting himself, because he played with Doug McDaniels and played with, I think Malik Mack was 2 years behind him. But they came from Washington Jesuit Academy, and they've always had good players. And I think he was just comfortable fitting in. Coming to Bullis, we needed him more than fitting in. So I think he was able to take some shots that he might not have taken if he were surrounded by higher level players. And I think he watched his Vado Morse have a tremendous career here, and sort of saw himself following Vado's path. But to go to your question about St. Joe's, remember now that he graduated 2021. And so the whole recruiting of that COVID year was thrown off because we didn't play in 2021. Coaches were coming to campus. It was a different recruiting year, and guys were taking things early because they wanted to solidify they had a home, because they weren't going to be able to raise their stock during the season. So not saying that Erik would have gone higher. I mean, no disrespect to St. Joe's whatsoever, but just they were on him early, and they gave him a platform. They let him take shots and take a lot of shots, and he helped them because they had to go through a little tough period. And this year it's by Erik staying and playing, they've been pretty good. Lost in the semifinals of the conference tournament. So it was a perfect match for Erik and St. Joe's, that they needed him to assert himself, and Erik needed them to give him the confidence and platform to assert himself, because he's such a nice guy that he would sometimes just fit in if you allowed him to. St. Joe's, they couldn't afford him fitting in. They needed him to assert himself.
Yeah, shout out to Brennan Strawn too. Obviously, a big part of recruiting him there.
Yeah,
Let's
sure.
I thought this was really interesting. I was talking to Coach DeStefano, and he said that your pregame talks with the team are actually pretty brief. And he said that you are vehemently against writing on a whiteboard, which, just knowing you and how detail oriented you are really surprised me. So kind of talk about what goes into that philosophy.
Aaron, we prepare really hard in practice,
Hmm.
right? So, I mean, what's the phrase? The hay's in the barn. We go over stuff in practice leading up to the game, and so going into the game, just feel like I want to keep their minds clear and just remind them what we've already done. That we don't have to do anything special here. We're already prepared. Just play your game. So that's it. I just different coaches have different things. Not saying it's right. It's just comfortable for me that just that guys go out there believing in themselves and not overthinking it. That's it. Plus, we don't have a whiteboard in our locker room. We don't have one. So just
DeStefano said he might get one with your name engraved on it in Bullis basketball. So he said once Bullis basketball and the Bullis way is up there, you might fall for it. All right. Let's talk about, coaching scores has always been interesting to me, and knowing when to give your players a bit more of a leash, when he really does have that ability to create for himself, while also knowing when to kind of rein him in and be like, all right, let's run this action or this offense for possession or two. Then we can kind of go in transition. We can, just kind of improvise, from there. Talk about what you've learned about being adaptable and accepting input from your coaches, on your staff as well as the players.
Okay. So that last part was a little different. So
yeah,
I'm going to answer. What do you want to answer? The input from coaches and players, or the
let's do the leash. Let's do the leash part first, and then we'll kind of talk about taking input.
Okay. You got to earn that privilege, right? You got to earn that. Like if your practice habits are not of that nature, and then you're not going after it in practice, there's just no way that I'm going to unbound you. It just can't happen. It's disrespectful to us and our process, the routine. You've got to be able to, like, if you've proven that you're scoring on people in practice, and that's different. Now we're all right. If you can do it in practice and we're coaching against you at that point and trying to make things hard, then we're getting closer to it. And then the other part, Aaron, is like, if you're hot, then you might be able to take a bad shot, but you can't take a bad shot to get hot. Okay. Yeah. So like if you're grooving, you're going, like, all right, man, let's go. Let's play. But if you're missing a couple, then we got to say, hey, Aaron, you got to get fouled. You got to get a layup, maybe pass the ball to someone else. I mean, you got to work your way. It just doesn't happen overnight. You got to do something to see that ball go through the hoop, as opposed to just taking a crappy shot. So I think that's, if I had to summarize into one simple, digestible thing, is if you have a hot lunch going, then we're going to roll the wave. But if you don't, then you've got to have enough discipline to find another way to get going. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, got you. Two more questions, and then we'll get you out of here. So kind of putting you on the hot seat a little bit. If it were up to you, I'm sure you get asked this question all the time, but if it were up to you, would you merge the MAC and IAC?
It would be so much fun, because we have a lot of common interests, right? But I know why the schools won't do it, just because there's a lot of differences in other sports. The one sport we could do it in would be basketball, and it would be I'd love to do it. And if we did it, to almost do a top half and a bottom half, like an A and a B conference, like they do on the MIAA.
Mhm.
And we'd have great games. We'd have some great games. That was it. I would enjoy that, particularly if we went to the two divisions, right? But if we just merged and had a 13-team league, then that would limit our like regular season scheduling. Like right now at Bullis, we have a 10-game conference schedule, and we can, depending on our quality of our team, we can do our non-conference schedule really suitable to our team. Like this past year, we had a hell of a schedule, and next year we have a hell of a schedule. Who knows where we're going to be in 3 years? We might have to down schedule, and that we have that freedom now. So merge, top half and the bottom half. Amen. I'm all in.
Like that. So last question, what sets the DMV apart, from the other hotbeds, the other big regions in the country? Is it the coaching? Is it the players? Is it, just the history? What sets this area apart?
Aaron, I think we have to really show like our predecessors, like Morgan Wooten and Joe Gallagher starting that camp that all the old time guys talk about, the Mason-Dixon camp. And then Coach Wooten really, he made coaching high school ball respectable, and with the summer camps, and we all have a way now through camps, and we can make a decent living at doing coaching a game we love. And so when those guys set the standard for the quality of ball, and it's just grown on top of itself, that the AAU programs are well coached. The kids love basketball. There's a competition. We as high school coaches are the beneficiaries of the AAU, beneficiary of the skill development, beneficiary of the love of the game. We do our part, right? And then we have guys like you and Mark who do a great job following it. So there's just there's a passion, there's a fever around high school ball that it's hard to replicate in other places. Other places might have like ups and down years of it, but the consistency of our area is it makes me a better coach, and it makes all my.
All right. And then sorry, one more question, Coach. Let's talk about the players that made you lose the most sleep, whether that was a conference or, a local kid versus, maybe a big team with a big time player in a tournament that you guys had to play in.
I'm going to stick more conference, right? Because if it's a tournament, it happens so quickly. It's only the night before. Whereas a conference, you know that guy's there. He's all year long, your prize. And so there have been several. Working backwards, Tyler Perkins was just a pain in the ass, man. He was just he made the rest of that landed team pretty good. And if you caught him on a night where he had a hot lunch, that was going to be hard. So Tyler Perkins, he's on the old pain in my butt team. Sticking with that ugly ass brown uniforms of Landon, we're gonna go Joe McDonald. Joe McDonald, Aaron, that might have been before your time here. Yeah. Joe was like a 2012 graduate from Landon, went to GW, played for Lonergan, and then won the NIT with him. So Joe, he was just a ferocious competitor. Those two are on it for sure. Keithan Savage from Episcopal, he was on it. And then certainly Mike Jones at St. Stephen's, he had a rack of guys, man. He had a rack of guys that were tough. But Charles Thompson probably would have been the one that just was. It's always the relentless guys. Like if they're a shooter, you can sort of prepare for that or do something to take them out. But the guys who just won't quit, like that second, third, multiple effort guys that you have no plan for, right? You can't simulate that in practice. There's no play that they're doing. It's just that whatever you do, that guy's going to outwork your guy. And that's those are my four guys who head the list for you. And there have been plenty. I don't mean to dismiss anyone, but those four guys at the top of the list.
Thompson would whip your ass, and then he'd be smiling the whole time too, which I'm assuming.
He'd talk a little smack. Yeah, no question. He'd enjoy the moment. We'll put it like that, Aaron. He'd enjoy the moment.
Great kid. All right. So let's kind of talk about your team, going into next year. You have one of the best wings, in the area. Also, pretty prominent nationally in Adrien Stevens. And then one of the best bigs, I think, in the area in Erik Reynolds. Um, Talk about that team that you have, like you mentioned earlier, you do have some big shoes to fill at the point guard spot, as well as, replacing Caden Diggs. But kind of talk about, your team for next year and what kind of you're looking for some of the guys to step up.
We're top heavy, right? We're top heavy. We're this year things were balanced out a little bit, shared the wealth. So Adrien and Erik are gonna have to lead the way. They're just no other way to put it. Those guys got to lead the way. They got to be good. And in practice and workouts and games, they've got to step up, and they both want it, and they both going to put the work in to earn that spot. So that's our job to make sure they're getting the touches, getting the ball, getting shots. So we'll be top heavy. But a couple of guys who are with us now. Darren Moore, who came off the bench, he has defended an elite level, and he's sacrificed a lot of his game to be a part of a winning team this year. And so he's going to have more freedom to make plays and create plays and be our lead guard, Darren Moore, number 2. So feel confident there. Angelo Dickerson, who was a sophomore, came off the bench with a real scorer's mentality, and he's the rest of his game is expanded. He's become a much better defensive player, so he'll have an increased role. I don't think Jason Peterson is going to return to Bullis. I don't mean to share his business with everyone, but I think he's looking to reclassify, and so he's going to be a loss. Then a couple of guys off the bench, Michael Heyman, who went to Landon originally, and then Christopher Richards will be able to fit in and play some significant minutes. We had a good JV, Orrin Ford, football player, tough kid, and can give us some toughness in the middle, some sort of kind of replacing what Jewel brought, some physicality. And we have a ninth grader, Xavier Skipworth, who is he will be able to contribute, certainly defensively, right from the jump. A lot of basketball fans in the area know who X is. Played on Takeover's 8th grade team this past year. Played at Bullis Middle School, and so we're counting on him. And you know what? It's season's still young. You never know who might join us along the way. Today is kind of fitting. You're calling me on this day that the portal for colleges have opened up today. Well, the portal stays open in high school. So,
yep. I'm keenly aware of this.
Yes.
For sure. Talk about your coaching staff as well for next year.
Oh man, thank you, Aaron. You teed me up here, and I appreciate that. Lucky, because the high school coach doesn't make money, but the assistant coach makes less. And we're lucky to have Paul DiStefano, who I think 6 decades of high school ball in this area. Coached one of the greatest players in DC basketball history, Johnny Dawkins, who some would say there would be no Mike Krzyzewski without Johnny Dawkins. So Paul DiStefano he coaches me, and he sort of makes sure the ship runs straight and runs on time, and he's just a friend and valued confidant. Nick Sparacino and Glenn Stokes and Taylor Jenkins, all younger coaches. They come at the players with different angles and energy and enthusiasm. And Taylor Jenkins played ball here, female player, probably our most accomplished basketball player on the staff, played at South Alabama. And she comes at as you would imagine, she's female, she comes at a different approach. And at times we all get stupid and silly, and she's sort of, it kind of brings it the same message in a different vein, and it connects. And we just can't thank her enough, and her basketball expertise, particularly on the defensive end. Nikki and Glenn do a lot of the pre-practice skill work and development. Both those guys are our guys get better, right? So they have DMAC and Coop in the offseason. And then during the season, we have Nikki and Glenn who can continue it and develop and build on it. And, the modern game is so much about what can you do, right? You have a little space, you got to be able to make a play, and you can't make a play unless you've worked on your game. And our coaches were fortunate that they have spent so much time and energy in crafting designs and plans and techniques to make our guys better. So Aaron, thank you for teeing that up. I can't thank those guys enough.
Of course. All right, let's move on to the quick hitters, and then we'll get you out of here. I really appreciate your time today, Coach Kelley. So my first question is a game show that you think you could win.
Oh man. You remember the Newlywed Show? Yeah, this might be before your time, Aaron, but the husband and the wife, and they ask questions, and the husband asks questions, and the wife asks questions. I think when my bride and I, we'd knock that out of the park. That's it, the Newlywed Game. We can go old school, right? We don't have to do anything new.
No, not at all. Yeah.
Let's go.
All right,
so game for sure.
Invite 3 basketball minds to a dinner to chop it up with, living or dead.
Okay, there was a little static, but let me see if I got the question right. 3 people to invite for dinner.
Yep.
And they're DMV basketball minds?
Nah, just basketball minds in general.
All right. Well, one is going to be my college coach, Jack Bruin, because we might not end up talking basketball, but he would tell stories, and whoever's with us, we're going to be laughing. He was from New York City, played at Power Memorial with Lou Alcindor and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, was a local bartender and coach ball, and just has a gift for telling stories and just making you laugh. So Jack Bruin is one. My buddy, Bobby Brown. Second one, longtime coach at St. Albans, who we lost him shortly after COVID, and one of the last guys I know of who was the All-Met Coach of the Year in football, in basketball, and baseball. Just a unique mind on how he approaches basketball. And these are all going to be dead people, because I figure if they're alive, I can be able to reach out to them. And what basketball conversation can you have without the Wizard? You know who I'm going to go with? I'm going to mix it up. I was going to go the Wizard of Westwood, but I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to go with Red Auerbach. Okay. Red Auerbach, DC guy. All of them have DC ties. Fun fact for you. Paul DiStefano's father worked with Red Auerbach and was the attorney representing Bill Russell.
Oh, wow.
Get Paulie D to tell some stories sometimes. So those are my 3: Jack Bruin, Bob Brown, Red Auerbach. We're having a great time. We're talking a little ball. That's a great night right there.
It's going to be a good one for sure. What coach have you stolen the most from?
Ooh, because that is true. That, you think about mentors, and it's people that you have coached against. And you know what? I don't have a single answer for you. I'm an equal opportunity thief. So it's yes, indeed. But if there was somebody to get rounded back, Josh Merkel, who was the head coach at Randolph-Macon.
Yep.
I mean, every time I see his practice, I come home with 2 or 3 thoughts, ideas. That guy is just he's really good at what he does, Aaron. He's really good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Super high level.
Yes.
Who's the one that got away? A recruit that you either had thought that you were going to get to come to campus and then didn't. Who's the one that got away? So
this one changed my life, Aaron. This one changed my life. So I'm at American University. Jerome Williams was at Montgomery County Community College, MC. Jerome was like 6'3.5" at that time. But then I come to see him later on because Steve Hobson was the coach at the time. And I went back and saw him, like, we'll call it 6 months, might have been 8 months later on. And Jerome is now 6'6.5". And Jerome Williams at 6'6.5" is a whole different deal at American University. So we signed Jerome Williams, and then there was just some complications. We couldn't get him in, and we tried to get him in the following year, and Jerome said he was coming. Now Jerome is 6'9.5", and they were very favorable comparisons to Scottie Pippen. So this is 1994, somewhere in that range. It was Bulls Last Dance. That's prominent at the time.
Yeah.
And then Georgetown University and John Thompson come in and take Jerome, and he ends up going with them. So, and we subsequently get fired 2 years after that. I go back to high school, and I'm a high school coach. And so Jerome's literally changed my life. But Aaron, I've told this story so many times. It changed my life for the better, because we would have won plenty of games with Jerome. I would have chased that college thing. I might have had some success, but I'd be someplace else, probably fired. Who knows what my marital status would be? I'm lucky with the life I have now. So the one that got away, clearly the biggest tuna that got away is Jerome Williams. Yeah.
It's a great story. This one's a lot simpler. MJ or LeBron?
I'm an older guy, man. Half my team is one way, half my team is the other. But how can you grow up and watch ball in the 90s and see Jordan make the shot? He's the guy. He's the guy.
There you go. What book is a must read for every basketball coach?
Oh boy. Well, for me, there are so many, Aaron. This one caught me off guard. So you asked me if I wanted the questions ahead of time. I probably should have thought of this one, but there is a guy, let's say a gentleman, and I'm blanking on his name. He wrote a book for teaching teachers, and the name of this book is Teaching Teachers How to Coach, or Teaching Coaches How to Teach. And it really breaks down all of, not anything basketball, it's just you as a teacher, and how you deliver your message, the feedback loop, how you present it. And it is not an easy read, man. You've got to like take a chapter and reread it and underline and go back. And if there's one book that, like in the last 4 years that I've read, that it's really impacted on me on how my approach is, it is that book on how kids learn, and so how we can better present the material, because it really doesn't make a difference how much you know or I know, right? It's just what we get those players to know. And that book, it's not for everyone, man. It's not for everyone, because you have to put the time in to kind of digest it, because it's not a quick, easy read.
Is that how to
look at? I'm gonna post you later on.
Is that how to coach teachers to teach almost anything?
There's some steps.
Is that how to coach teachers to teach almost
anything? Yes.
By Jill
I'm gonna look this up, and I'm going to text it to you, so you can at least add it to your show notes or whatever else you want to do. So I apologize, folks, that I'm blanking on the name.
Jill Jackson is the author's name.
No, that's not it.
Okay.
That's not it.
All right, we'll have to find it. That's fine. All right. Would you rather take a charge from Shaq or try to guard KD with the game on the line?
Woo. How much room is Shaq just catching the post? He's turning his shoulder deal, or is he getting ahead of steam?
I don't think it matters.
I'd take him on a one-stepper. I could do that. Flop, no problem. Yeah, KD could just beat me in too many ways. I'm taking the charge on Shaq, assuming he's in the post. That's what I'm doing. And I'm just ducking out so he doesn't catch me with a bow, nose high. That's it.
You're going in like the girls to get that.
Yeah. I'm covering up, baby. I'm covering up. It's pre-planned. I'm down quickly.
What's the best dynasty you've seen in basketball?
MJ. 3 years, and he goes and plays baseball and comes back, and he had the little hardship, the hiccup against the Orlando Magic when he came back with not enough time, then to do it again. And everyone knows they were going out, and how he did it with the no charge, against Utah. And it was, I know older people always say it was better then. Now it's because you had to stay up and watch the games. And they were so cool with those red and black uniforms. Yeah, I'm going with the Bulls. That's my favorite, just because that's my era when I was growing up. And yeah,
okay,
for me,
gotcha.
One man's opinion, Aaron.
It's all good. You're on the show, so that is your opinion we care about today. All right, so a great podcast or YouTube series, and I feel like I should disqualify you from choosing Attack Basketball for this one. I did see a couple instructional videos.
Yeah. So my favorite,
Yeah.
what, um, you know what? It's silly, this show, but I crushed it. The House of Cards, man. I just, yeah. Before it got weird when the guy got banned from the show, up until that point, yeah, it was based in DC, and it was kind of morbid. But man, maybe it was because during the pandemic, but we just crushed that show. We watched it.
Okay, got you. You're a defensive minded coach. Should hand checking be brought back
So NBA.
at all levels?
I think they're calling it high school. I mean, you can kind of, you know what? If you do like the quick step arm, you just can't hold it like, you know, like back in those days. They were just, the guys are so strong, they just would keep you there. But you got to touch, because they're just scoring too easy now. You got to have some sort of physical resistance on the ball. That's for me.
Okay.
And it won't, you know what, Aaron? It won't change the game that much. Let them be a little physical. Maybe make them do it with an arm bar, but they got to have a little bit more resistance than they do now. It's just too easy now.
What's the hardest shot in basketball for you? Like for me, it was actually like the Yale game winner yesterday, where you catch it just outside the paint, right, just outside of that block, that little floater. I hate it when people pass me the ball there.
That one is because you don't have your rhythm, nothing there, and it's that in between. Who practices that shot? Right? Most any other shot, you get your feet down, you're planning. So I'm gonna, you know what, Aaron? I'm gonna stick with you. That little soft, short corner dunker spot, little catch float. You can't even use the backboard. You got to get out of your hands. That little, yeah, that's it. I'm with you. I'm gonna ride with you.
If I was a high flyer, it'd be different, because I'd take one dribble and then just rise up. But that's never been my game for sure.
That's right. You got other talents, man. Other talents.
All right. So last question is, how do you manage minutes? Is it with cards? Do you like doing it just off of feel? Is it your assistant coaches kind of letting you know, all right, it's time to bring blah 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 in, or how do you manage that?
Perfect world, you go with an idea of your rotation, right? It was the adage, man plans, God laughs, right? So you never ever know. Foul trouble, injury, matchups, flow of game. So you have a plan going in. And then in your mind, you're thinking, all right, so-and-so's had a really good couple of days of practice, a couple of days, right? So give him a chance to kind of get going. So far more of a feel, right? But I will say this. People think that maybe it might be a parent conversation. That's never it. It is what that child's doing in practice, which determines it. Okay. And so, especially if they've had a good approach and dialed in a couple of days in row of practice, you get a chance to play through a mistake or two. But the one thing to get you the quick yank, if you're just a sieve defensively, if you are not holding your end of the bargain defensive, and they're just taking you to the woodshed, you got to come out, man. You can't. You're not competing. You got to go. You can't. That's unforgivable there. So I think I answered the question. It's just more of a feel, but you earn that feel too.
Yeah, gotcha, 100%. All right, man. So the last part of the podcast, Coach, is I flip it on you without any preparation and ask if you have any questions for me.
Yeah, Aaron, you are very thorough with your questions and the research you do, and I follow you on some of your postings about players. Why do you put so much time and energy into this? And tell me your gratification from it.
Interesting. I think it's just the way that my brain works, honestly. I'm just not able to summarize things and synthesize things down to a more manageable spot. But I think, the whole point of, me as a writer and, me as a talent evaluator with OWE Hoops is that I'm going to put that time into watching the player. And my job is to give you details and some nuances of his game that aren't readily available if you watch a highlight video. So, the appeal for me is, you might not watch Adrien Stevens play and outside of highlights, right? And so he can shoot the three, he can dunk on anybody. He's a really dynamic player, but you may not know that he needs to work on dribbling with his left and his pull-up. You might not know that sometimes he gambles for a steal and can get beat backdoor. Sometimes, there's little areas and nuances of the game that he needs to work on. And then there's little things that he does really well as far as, like maybe for him, he's really good at timing the cadence of the ball handler, while he's setting up the offense. He uses that opportunity and that time to time. All right, he put that down. He's in a rhythm. He's looking at other guys. I'm going to go for the steal and get to the other end. I think that those little details are the ones that win games for, high school coaches and then for college coaches at the next level. And I think it's my job to try to give them the most holistic view on the player that I'm looking at. Because it doesn't help anybody to say Adrian's athletic. You don't have to be a genius to see that. There's nothing that goes into that. But to know what he needs to work on, to know like specific strengths that he has and how that fits with your system or maybe doesn't, makes it a valuable kind of review for coaches to see.
The exact answer I thought I was going to get. Very thorough and well thought. No, that it's appreciated. It's appreciated because there's a lot of people who are doing shortcuts in your chosen profession, and that your insights have a more depth to them than many others.
Really appreciate that, Coach. All right. Well, thank you so much for the time. This is gonna be super helpful, I'm sure.
No, man, this is awesome. And I'm mad I can't think of the name. I was looking at the book. It's an orange book, and I'm blanking on the name of the book. But I'm going to look it up now, and I'm going to text it to you.
Sounds great. All right. Appreciate it, Coach. Looking forward to watching next season.
Be good, partner.